Before we drift into the life of Hunson Abadeer, I'd love to know where in the world are you watching from tonight? And what time is it for you right now? Drop it in the comments below. It's always magical seeing how far and wide this sleepy little community reaches. All right, lights low, blankets up. Let's begin. Tonight, we're wandering into a different kind of story. A place that isn't just dark, but strange. Alive with echoes of laughter, screaming, and things that don't quite make sense. We're going to the Nightosphere. Now, if you've spent any time in the land of Wu, you probably already know the name Hunson Abadeer, Lord of Evil, Keeper of Chaos, Father of Marceline. But tonight, we're going deeper. We're going back to the very origin of that bizarre, swirling, impossible place he calls home. Because the truth is, the Nightosphere isn't just a place. It's an idea. It's a reflection of something older, something bigger. And honestly, it's kind of beautiful in a terrifying way. So what is the Nightosphere? In the world of Adventure Time, most places follow some kind of rule, right? Even the Candy Kingdom, as wild as it looks, has rules, laws, structures. But the Nightosphere? That's where the rules break down. It's like someone took the very idea of disorder and said, what if we lived there? When we first see it in the show, it's portrayed as a fiery, endless dimension full of floating rock islands, strange creatures, and rivers of lava that seem to flow sideways. And the sky. The sky looks like it's always burning, but never burns out. Everything about it feels wrong. But at the same time, it's mesmerizing. Like staring into static on an old TV, but realizing that static is alive and whispering to you. And this is where Hunson rules. But more on him in a bit. Let's take it slowly here. I want you to imagine the Nightosphere not just as a hellscape, but almost like a mirror. Not of people, but of feelings. Fear, anger, guilt. Ever had one of those days where your thoughts felt messy, like you couldn't hold on to anything solid, and everything kept floating away? That's the Nightosphere. It's the physical shape of emotional chaos. And just like our minds can sometimes be scary places, the Nightosphere isn't evil because it wants to be. It's just built from that same stuff we hide under the bed or shove into the back of closets. The Nightosphere is the back of the closet, the under the bed. It's where unfinished thoughts go to wander around in circles forever. But here's the wild thing. No one really knows how it came to be. There are no ancient scrolls in the land of Uu that tell the story of its creation. No old kings or scientists wrote about it. It just is. Some fans think it might have existed before the Mushroom War, maybe before Uu itself. Others think maybe it's a byproduct of Golb, chaos birthing chaos, like bubbles forming at the bottom of a boiling pot. And honestly, both theories feel true in their own way. What we do know is that Hunson Abadeer controls it, or at least parts of it. See, Hunson isn't just the Lord of Evil. He's kind of like a landlord of bad feelings. He doesn't really build things there. He just is there. He thrives in that weird static energy. And it makes sense, doesn't it? If you're someone who feeds off chaos, why would you want peace and quiet? But here's the thing that always makes me stop and think. What if Hunson didn't choose the Nightosphere? What if it chose him? That's the part I love thinking about as we drift off tonight. Imagine, somewhere in the distant past, this swirling mess of floating rocks and lava rivers was just there. And Hunson, whoever he used to be, stumbled into it. Maybe he was already powerful. Maybe he was just curious. And the Nightosphere looked at him, and he looked back, and the two of them decided they belonged to each other. A deal, maybe. or just a slow merging like vines wrapping around a tree. Because in the Nightosphere, nothing is entirely separate. Everything overlaps. Time doesn't move right. Space folds in on itself like crumpled paper. It's not just a dimension, it's a feeling. Like when you walk into a room and forget why you came in, and now you're standing there confused, lost in your own head. That's what the Nightosphere feels like. Forever. Even the creatures that live there, they don't really have names, do they? Just faces, shapes, noises. Some scream, some laugh, some float around like they're late for an appointment they forgot. It's funny, isn't it? Even in a place full of horror, there's something a little silly about it. We just drifted through the burning rivers and floating ruins of the Nightosphere. But now it's time to shift the focus. Not on the place, but on him, Hunson Abadeer, the so-called Lord of Evil. The one with too many teeth in his grin and too many mysteries tucked behind those wild, glowing eyes. And here's the strange thing about Hunson. He's not one person. Not really. He's layers. Like pages in an old book, curling at the edges, torn here and there, smudged by time. So tonight we're going to gently turn those pages, one by one. No rush, no hurry. Just drifting with the soft hum of the Nightosphere behind us. Let's start with the first page, the face most of us see when we hear his name. The villain, Hunson, the demon king of the Nightosphere, who literally sucks souls out of people. Not exactly someone you'd invite over for tea, right? The first time we meet him in Adventure Time, he's terrifying. This towering, floating figure, purple cloak flapping behind him, fangs bared, voice booming like someone yelling into a microphone that's way too loud. But here's the funny part. Almost immediately, it's clear that he's not just evil. He's awkward. Kind of daddish. Like a parent trying to be cool in front of their kids' friends, but getting everything wrong. Remember how he greets Marceline? It's not with menace or dramatic speeches, it's with that classic awkward dad energy. Hey, kiddo! It's so strange and funny that this terrifying being of chaos, ruler of one of the darkest dimensions in the multiverse, is fumbling his way through small talk with his daughter. It's ridiculous. But it's also kind of real, because Hunson, despite all his loudness and sharp edges, has this one big weakness. He wants to be loved. Or maybe more accurately, he wants to matter. He tries to connect with Marceline, but he does it the only way he knows how, with loud, clumsy, aggressive energy. It's like giving someone a hug by knocking them over with a tackle. It's not evil. It's just wrong. Misguided. I think that's why Hunson's evilness never really feels complete. It's like a costume that doesn't fit anymore. Sure, he can do scary things. He can suck souls, destroy things, start chaos. But behind that sharp grin, you get the sense that he's playing a role he doesn't fully understand. It's like watching someone wear armor that's 3 sizes too big. And that's the first face of Hunson. The performer. The villain mask. It's big, it's loud, it's dramatic. But underneath, it's all a bit hollow. Now let's turn the page gently. There's another face hiding just beneath that surface. This one's softer, more complicated. It's the face of a father. And not just any father, a father who messed up. A father who doesn't know how to fix it. See, what makes Hunson's story so powerful is that it's messy. It's not about good versus evil. It's about family. Broken relationships. Things unsaid. Mistakes you wish you could undo but don't know how. That's the heart of his story with Marceline. He loves her. You can see it in those awkward moments where his loud act falters when his voice drops just a bit too soft by accident. But he doesn't know how to show that love without ruining everything around him. Like giving someone a gift but accidentally setting their house on fire while delivering it. It's funny. It's tragic. It's human. Hunson's relationship with Marceline is like watching 2 people who really do care about each other, but speak 2 completely different languages. One talks in loud bursts of chaos. The other talks in quiet songs on old broken guitars, and neither one fully knows how to translate for the other. Isn't that how life feels sometimes? trying to reach someone, but feeling like the words are floating just out of reach, like stars in the wrong part of the sky. But don't worry, we're not stopping here. There's more. So much more. Hunson isn't just a villain. He isn't just a father. There's another side to him. A third face. And we're going to turn to that next. But before we go there, take a moment to breathe. Let your mind drift. Feel the weight of those unfinished conversations. The things you wish you could explain. The misunderstandings that never got untangled. We're going to untangle them here, one thread at a time. Stay with me. All right, let's drift a little deeper now. We've seen the first two faces. Hunson the villain, loud, sharp, awkward. And Hunson the father, soft beneath the noise, clumsy with love, holding 1,000 unspoken apologies behind his sharp grin. But now we turn another page. And this one is different. It's not loud, it's not awkward, it's not even tragic. It's complicated. This is Hunson, the manipulator. See, for all his awkwardness, Hunson knows how to get what he wants. He might not be able to fix his relationship with Marceline. But when it comes to schemes, chaos, and trickery, he's sharp. Sharp like broken glass hidden in velvet. Remember that time he tricks Finn into releasing him from the Nightosphere? That's not just villain energy, that's clever, calculating, patient energy. Hunson plays the long game. He waits, he watches, and when the moment's right snap, he takes it. And that's the strange contradiction of him. He's clumsy with love, but dangerously good at manipulation. It's like his heart is a mess, but his mind is a chessboard, always planning 3 moves ahead. But even his manipulations feel off somehow. Almost like a magician pulling rabbits out of hats, but forgetting why the trick mattered in the first place. Hunson doesn't manipulate for power. He doesn't even seem that interested in ruling or dominating other realms. No, he manipulates because he's lost. Because in chaos, he feels comfortable. The Nightosphere made him that way. Chaos is predictable to him. Feelings, relationships, those are the confusing parts. It's almost like Hunson knows how to open every locked door except the one leading back to his daughter's trust. That's what makes him fascinating. Not because he's evil, but because he's so broken in all the wrong places. And that brings us to one of my favorite layers, Hunson, the performer. Hunson, the father. Hunson, the manipulator. But there's still another hidden face beneath all of these. One that's not immediately obvious unless you really sit with his story for a while. It's the face of regret. You can feel it in the cracks of his jokes, in the way his voice lowers when Marceline calls him out. It's in those little pauses, those tiny fractures in his mask, where the performance slips, and something tired shines through for just a second. It's like watching someone laugh at a party, but catch their reflection in the window, and for a moment, they don't recognize the person staring back. That's Hunson. Not just loud, not just tricky, not just awkward, but tired of pretending. Tired of missing the mark. Tired of being the villain in someone else's life when deep down, he doesn't fully remember why he started acting that way in the first place. It makes me wonder, did Hunson choose this path? Or did the Nightosphere choose it for him? Maybe, once upon a time, he was just like Marceline, creative, curious, full of wild songs and soft rebellions against the world. But then, the Nightosphere found him, twisted him, made him into this floating contradiction we see now, sharp and soft, loud and lonely, dangerous and sad. And that's what makes his story beautiful in a strange way. Because Hunson Abadeer isn't just a villain in a cartoon. He's a portrait of what happens when someone forgets who they are and can't quite find their way back. Kind of like those nights when you lie awake thinking about all the versions of yourself you used to be, wondering which ones you kept and which ones you accidentally left behind. But don't worry, we're not lost here. We're just wandering gently, like quiet footsteps through an old house, remembering each room as we go. And speaking of remembering, there's one more face of Hunson we have to explore. The most important one of all. Not the villain, not the father, not the manipulator, but the lost boy beneath the crown. We'll turn that page next. But for now, let's just breathe together for a moment. In, hold, out. You're doing great. And there's still more of this strange, unfinished story to uncover. All right, let's turn that next page together. We've seen the performer. We've seen the awkward father fumbling for connection. We've seen the manipulator pulling strings behind the curtains of chaos. But beneath all of those layers, hidden like a secret you only admit to yourself when nobody else is around, there's Hunson, the lost boy. Yeah, boy. Not demon. Not villain. Not lord of evil. But a kid, trapped in the body of a being who's lived too long, seen too much, and lost track of where the beginning ended and the ending began. It's wild to think about, right? This massive, floating, cape-flapping creature of terror might have once been like anyone else. Curious. Hopeful. Wanting to belong. And somewhere along the way, he forgot. That's the saddest part. Hunson isn't evil because he chose it one day, like picking a scary outfit from the closet. He slid into it. One mistake here, one bad decision there. A few laughs that got a little too sharp. A few tricks that went too far. And before he knew it, the people who loved him stopped looking at him with warmth and started looking at him with fear. And here's where it gets really interesting. What if he doesn't fully remember when that shift happened? Think about it. How often do we catch ourselves drifting through life on autopilot, only realizing years later that we've drifted far from the person we used to be? I wonder if Hunson ever wakes up floating there in his lava-lit sky, cloak dragging through the ash, and suddenly remembers some tiny, ordinary moment from long ago, like the sound of Marceline's laugh when she was little, or the feeling of holding something precious before the Nightosphere swallowed it all. And maybe, for just a second, it hurts. But instead of dealing with that pain, he does what he always does. Covers it up with a joke. Covers it up with loudness. Covers it up with teeth. Because sometimes being loud is easier than being honest. It's easier to pretend you don't care than to admit you do, especially when you've already convinced everyone else you're beyond saving. But no one is ever really beyond saving, are they? Not truly. And I think that's what makes Hunson's story beautiful in that weird, bittersweet Adventure Time kind of way. He's not the hero. He's not the villain. He's just lost. And being lost isn't a permanent thing. It's just where you are right now. Not forever. Just right now. That's why those moments between him and Marceline hit so hard. Because you can feel that old, soft part of him waking up again, like a song he used to love but forgot the words to. And Marceline? She's the only one who can reach that part of him. Not with fighting, not with yelling, but with music, with old memories, with forgiveness that's hesitant but real. It's like Hunson's whole story is just one long, unfinished apology wrapped up in noise and teeth. I think about that a lot when I rewatch those episodes. How sometimes the scariest monsters we know are just people who forgot how to say, "I'm sorry I became someone you don't recognize." And I love that Adventure Time lets it be that complicated. It doesn't make Hunson into a cartoonish bad guy who gets defeated and disappears. It lets him linger. It lets him try. Clumsily. Badly. Imperfectly. And that's what makes it feel real. Because life is rarely neat like a bedtime story. It's messy. It's loud when you wish it were quiet. It's awkward when you need grace. It's sharp where you hope for softness. But in between all that noise, there are tiny, shining moments of truth. Hunson has those moments. You just have to look closely between the folds of his too big cloak and the grin that tries too hard. And honestly, that's kind of comforting. Knowing that even the loudest monsters might just be lost kids wearing masks they forgot how to take off. But don't drift too far just yet, sleepyhead. There's still one more part of this segment end to explore. A question hiding behind all these layers we've peeled back. If Hunson is lost, if he's been wearing all these masks for so long, is there still a way back for him? We're going to sit with that next. For now, just breathe. Let the story wrap around you like a soft old blanket. The kind that smells like childhood, even if you don't know why. I'm still here with you. Let's keep going soon. Let's drift into that last part of Hunson's many faces. The question we've been circling around this whole time, like moths around a flickering lamp in the dark. Is there a way back for him? After everything Hunson's done, the soul-sucking, the manipulation, the awkward, broken attempts at fatherhood, is there still a path for him to find something close to peace? Adventure Time doesn't give us neat answers. And honestly, I'm glad it doesn't, because real life doesn't either. But it does give us something even better. It gives us hope. Remember the Stakes miniseries? There's that beautiful, quiet moment when Marceline forgives him. Not in a grand, dramatic way. Not with fireworks or heroic music. Just soft, awkward, imperfect. A conversation that feels more like two people trying than two people winning. And that's the point. Hunson doesn't suddenly become good. He doesn't stop being loud or weird or clumsy with his feelings. But in that moment, something shifts. It's not about being perfect. It's about showing up. Showing up for the people you love, even if you're bad at it. Even if you're terrified you'll mess it up again. And Hunson does show up. Again and again, in his own broken, awkward way. He doesn't know the right words. He doesn't have some perfect speech tucked away in his endless cloak. But he's there. And sometimes, that's all we really want from the people we love. For them to stay, even if they don't know how to fix the mess. It makes me think about how many people we meet in life who are just like that. People who don't have the tools to say what they mean. Who don't always know how to love gently, but who show up anyway. And I think Hunson's story is telling us that sometimes that's enough. Sometimes just trying matters more than getting it right. It's like that feeling when someone makes you a cup of tea, and they mess it up. Too much sugar, wrong kind of tea bag, maybe even forgot to boil the water properly, but you drink it anyway because they tried. And in that moment, the trying is worth more than the results. That's Hunson. And that brings us to the most important thing about all his faces, whether he's the villain, the father, the manipulator, or the lost boy. He's trying. It's messy. It's weird. It's not always enough. But it's real. And isn't that what matters most? I love that Adventure Time lets its characters be like that. No sharp lines between hero and villain. Just people or demons or vampires or candy people, figuring things out one awkward, beautiful mistake at a time. And Hunson, floating there in his cloak, making bad dad jokes, accidentally terrifying his daughter's friends, hovering awkwardly at family events. He's one of the most human characters in the whole show, even if he's technically a monster. Because being human isn't about getting everything right. It's about being messy and trying anyway. It's about fumbling through love, and sometimes having to start over more than once. So, as we close this chapter on the many faces of Hunson Abadeer, let's carry that gentle thought with us. Even the Lord of Evil can try to be better. Even the biggest mistakes don't have to be the ending. Even lost people, or lost demons, can slowly, awkwardly, find their way back to the people they care about. It might not be perfect. It might not even be pretty. But it can still be something. And sometimes, something is enough. All right, let's breathe together one more time. In, hold, out. You're doing wonderfully, you know that? I'm glad you're here. We're not done yet. There's still so much more to the story to explore. Next, we'll drift into another chapter of Hunson's tale. The part where we peel back the curtain on his time in the Nightosphere, and how being its ruler changed him forever. But for now, just rest in this moment. No rush, no noise, just quiet curiosity and soft wonder. I'll be here when you're ready to keep going. We've wandered through the strange, echoing halls of Hunson's many faces, the villain, the manipulator, the lost boy behind the crown. But now we're going somewhere even closer to the heart. Not to the Nightosphere, but to something far messier. Family. This is the part of Hunson's story that always sits differently, doesn't it? Not loud, not scary, not funny, just sad. Beautifully, painfully sad. Because this isn't just the story of the Lord of Evil. It's the story of a father and the daughter who kept waiting for him to come home. Let's go there gently. No rush, just soft steps, like walking barefoot across an old wooden floor, careful not to wake anyone. Marceline. Marceline Weil, fierce, funny, powerful Marceline. She doesn't need anyone to save her. She's got her axe base. She's got her vampire powers. She's got centuries of wild stories running through her veins. But you know what she wanted most? Not treasure. Not glory. Not even revenge. She just wanted her dad to care enough to stay. And that's what makes this story a tragedy, not because of something huge like a war or a great fall, but because of something small, something ordinary, something we've all felt, even if we don't talk about it much. The ache of wanting someone to choose you, and watching them choose something else instead. Hunson didn't leave because he hated her. And that's what makes it worse somehow. It wasn't some dramatic betrayal, it was neglect. It was that lazy, casual kind of love that says, "Of course I love you," but never shows it in the ways that matter. Marceline was just a kid when it happened. Hunson devoured her fries of all things. And in that moment, a little girl's heart broke in the quietest, saddest way imaginable. It wasn't about the fries. It was about what it represented. I don't care about the things that matter to you. It's so small, but that's why it hurts. Small things are where the big cracks start. And what did Marceline do? She didn't cry, didn't scream, didn't throw some huge tantrum. She just left. She left because staying would have meant shrinking herself smaller and smaller every time her dad made her feel invisible. And you know what's tragic? I don't think Hunson even realized how deep that cut went. Not until it was far, far too late. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many relationships in life crumble not because of cruelty, but because of carelessness? Hunson didn't need to be the Lord of Evil to lose Marceline. He just needed to be absent at the moments when she needed him to show up. And that's what makes this whole father-daughter relationship feel so heavy when you think about it late at night like this. Because you can feel how much both of them still love each other, like a song stuck between two radio stations, always almost clear but never quite coming through. And yet, despite all of that pain, Marceline never fully cuts him off. Isn't that wild? She has every right to. She could have slammed that door forever. But instead, she leaves it open just a crack. Just enough for him to stumble through, awkward and loud, trying and failing and trying again. Why? Because that's how love works sometimes. Even when it's messy. Even when it's broken. Even when it doesn't make sense to anyone but you. It's like there's this thin, frayed string stretched between them. And no matter how far they drift apart, neither of them quite lets go. That's the tragedy. But it's also the hope. Both tangled up, like vines wrapping around each other in the dark. All right, sleepy one. Let's breathe here for a second before we dive deeper. In, hold, out. Because next, we're going to walk through some of those moments. Those quiet conversations. The music, the memories, the way Marceline's voice cracks just a little when she talks to her dad. It's not just a cartoon story. It's our story. All of us, carrying old wounds in soft places, trying to build bridges with people who don't always know how to cross them. And Hunson and Marceline, they're not just characters. They're reminders of what happens when love tries, but doesn't always know how. We'll drift there gently in just a bit. Still here with you. All right. Let's keep going, slow and steady, like we're gently turning the pages of a book we've read before, but somehow it feels different every time. Now, let's talk about those moments. The ones where the weight of everything between them spills out, not in screaming matches or fiery battles, but in music. Because for Marceline, songs are her language of truth. She's a survivor, sure, battle-tested, sharp-witted, cool in that perfectly effortless way. But when it's time to talk about what hurts, she picks up her bass and lets the chords do the speaking for her. And when it comes to her dad, there's one song that stands out like a scar on her heart. I'm Just Your Problem. Remember that one? Soft strums, angry words. A melody that's catchy on the outside but aching underneath. It's not even just about Hunson directly. It's about everyone who's ever made her feel like she's too much or not enough or just wrong somehow. But beneath it all, there's a whisper of her relationship with him woven into every line. Sorry, I don't treat you like a goddess. Is that what you want me to do? Oof. That's not just a lyric, that's a wound. Marceline learned early that love often comes with expectations. And in Hunson's case, those expectations were twisted. He didn't want a daughter. He wanted a reflection of his own power. A partner in darkness. Someone to sit on the throne next to him, ruling the Nightosphere like a creepy family business. But Marceline, she didn't want power. She wanted belonging. She wanted late-night stories and someone to watch cartoons with and fries that were hers. And that's where the tragedy really sharpens. They were never speaking the same language. Hunson kept offering crowns, and Marceline kept asking for hugs. Two people holding out gifts that the other didn't know how to unwrap. And yet, even with all that tangled misunderstanding, they keep circling back to each other. That's what love looks like when it's bruised but still breathing. It's awkward texts sent too late. It's unfinished apologies. It's standing at the edge of someone's life, wondering if they'll let you in this time. Remember that scene when Hunson visits Marceline after a long absence? He's loud, embarrassing, acting like a villain at a birthday party no one wanted him to attend. And Marceline? She's so tired. Not angry, just worn out. You can feel it in her voice, like someone who's tried too many times to explain herself and doesn't have the energy for it anymore. And yet, she doesn't fully push him away. She rolls her eyes, sure. She snaps at him, of course. But that invisible thread is still there. Why? Because somewhere, deep down, there's still that tiny hope that maybe this time, he'll get it. Maybe this time he'll stop making everything about himself. Maybe this time he'll sit with her, instead of standing above her. It's that maybe this time feeling that's so achingly familiar. How many of us have had that? With parents, with friends, with anyone we've loved who didn't know how to love us back in the way we needed. But here's what makes Marceline strong. She knows better. She doesn't fall for empty promises. She keeps the door cracked, just enough for him to try, but she's no fool. She's not going to shrink for him. Not anymore. And that's what makes her one of the best characters in Adventure Time, not just because she's cool, not just because of the vampire powers, but because she teaches us something powerful. You can love someone and still protect yourself. You can forgive someone without forgetting what they did. You can leave the door open just enough, but still know when to walk away if it hurts too much. It's not weakness. It's wisdom. And Hunson? Somewhere deep in his weird, loud, floating self, I think he knows that too. I think that's why he keeps trying, even though he's terrible at it. Because sometimes love isn't about knowing how to show up. It's about showing up badly and hoping you'll get better at it next time. Let's sit with that for a moment together. Let it sink in soft like a favorite old sweater warming you on a chilly night. Still breathing? Good. We're going deeper next. We're going to explore not just the awkward moments, but the moments of real connection. The times when the music hits just right, when words are hard, but something else speaks for them. All right, let's wander deeper. Do you remember the moment when things finally began to shift between Hunson and Marceline? It wasn't in some dramatic showdown or epic battle for the fate of the Nightosphere. No explosions, no kingdoms falling. Just a song. Just her voice and his awkward, fumbling presence. Standing there like someone who's realized a little too late that he's been reading the wrong script his whole life. It's funny, isn't it? For a being who commands entire legions of demons, the hardest thing Hunson Abadeer ever faced was standing still long enough to listen to his daughter sing. Everything stays. That soft, haunting lullaby Marceline sings. It's not directly about him, but in a way, it's all about him. Go down to the ocean. The crystal tide is raising. It's a song about how things change slowly, how the world shifts around you before you even realize it's happening. But deep underneath those verses, there's something more kind of quiet plea. Can you stay? Can we get this right, even if it takes time? Hunson doesn't answer in words, not really. But there's that moment, soft and awkward, where you can tell he's trying to get it. Trying to understand the shape of the hurt he's caused. Trying to be something better, even if he has no idea how. And you know what? That's what makes it real. Adventure Time could have given us a clean, perfect ending. Father apologizes, daughter forgives, hugs all around, credits roll. But that's not how life works, is it? Sometimes forgiveness doesn't come with fireworks. Sometimes it's not even forgiveness, just understanding, just recognition. I see that you're broken too, and even though you hurt me, I'm still here. We're both still here. That's the strange, beautiful tragedy of Hunson and Marceline. They don't fix each other. They just start seeing each other. And I think there's something comforting in that. Because how many of us carry old family wounds like folded letters in the back of a drawer? Letters we've read 100 times. Letters we both love and hate. Letters we can't throw away even though they hurt. Hunson and Marceline are like those letters. Torn at the edges. Smudged with old fingerprints. Unreadable in places. But still there. Still carried. Still part of who we are. And in the Stakes miniseries, when Hunson finally tries to make things right in his own strange way, Marceline doesn't fall into his arms or forgive everything overnight. But she lets him stay. And that letting someone stay, that's one of the most powerful things you can offer someone who's broken your heart, especially when they're trying to be better. It doesn't erase the pain. It doesn't heal everything. But it's something. It's a start. You know what else I love about this story? It refuses to lie to us. It doesn't tell us that love fixes all things. It tells us that love is complicated. That you can love someone deeply and still feel disappointed by them. That you can protect yourself and still hope for their growth. That you can hold space for both the hurt and the hope at the same time. Isn't that true in life too? Maybe there's someone in your life like that. Someone who doesn't know how to say the right things, who's broken promises, who keeps stepping into your world clumsy and loud, but who, deep down, you know is still trying. Or maybe you are that person for someone else. Maybe you've been the one who didn't know how to show love the right way. And maybe, just maybe, this story, Hunson and Marceline's, is a quiet little reminder that it's okay to be messy. It's okay to be awkward, to fumble through apologies, to not always have the words. Because what matters most isn't being perfect. It's being present. It's showing up even if you don't know what to say. That's what Hunson did in his weird, demon-y, embarrassing way. And that's what Marceline allowed. Not total forgiveness, but an open door. Not a reunion, but a recognition. Two people standing in the awkwardness of love, finally starting to see each other for real. All right. Let's breathe again, yeah? In, hold, out. Good. You're doing so well, drifting here with me. I'm really glad you're here for this story. Next, we're going to drift into the moments when their relationship truly began to heal. The messy, uneven, beautiful steps towards something like reconciliation. It's not perfect, but it's theirs. And that makes it enough. Let's drift together into the last stretch of this part of their story. We've sat with the ache, the awkwardness, the weight of words left unsaid. Now, let's sit with something softer. Because despite all the clumsy mistakes, despite all the gaps between them, There are moments where it almost feels peaceful. Do you remember Marcy Hunson? That awkward, chaotic family reunion episode? It's not perfect, not by a long shot. Hunson arrives still wearing his I'm important energy like a loud shirt at a quiet dinner party. And Marceline? She's older now, wiser, sharper. She doesn't need him, and that's what makes this meeting different. Hunson tries to impress her in the only way he knows how, with power. By showing off, by intimidating people, by puffing up his chest like a cartoon villain at career day. But here's the shift. Marceline doesn't crumble. She doesn't cry or scream or storm away this time. She just handles it. With that dry wit of hers, that tired amusement. Like someone watching an old sitcom rerun they've seen 100 times. And somewhere in the awkward tension of it all, Hunson finally starts to get it. Not all at once. Not perfectly. But you can feel it happening. The slow, rusty gear in his heart beginning to turn, not because someone forced it to, but because he wants it to. Why? Because for the first time, maybe, he's starting to realize that loving Marceline doesn't mean turning her into a reflection of himself. It means letting her be who she already is. That's a hard lesson for any parent, right? Loving your kid not for what they could be, but for exactly who they already are. No fixing, no molding. Just love, simple and patience. And in that episode, there's this beautiful, subtle shift. Hunson stops trying to pull her into his world and starts stepping into hers. It's awkward. It's clumsy. It's, honestly, kind of funny. But it's real, and that makes it beautiful. And what about Marceline? Well, she doesn't fully open up here. She's been hurt too many times to just fall back into trust like nothing happened. But she allows him that chance. Not because she's naive, not because she's weak, but because she's strong enough to know that hope, even the tiniest shred of it, is sometimes worth the risk. Their relationship isn't about fixing the past. It's about learning how to live with it, about growing something new from the ashes of what went wrong. A cautious kind of love, a slow rebuilding, not a grand gesture, just presence. You know what? That's the kind of love that actually lasts, not the dramatic movie ending kind, but the everyday kind. The kind where two people keep showing up, keep learning, keep messing it up, and trying again. That's what Marceline and Hunson give us. Not a fairy tale, but a real tale. Something you can carry with you in your own life. When you think about the people who've hurt you, the ones who keep showing up awkwardly, trying to do better even if they don't always know how, it's not about forgiving everything. It's about seeing the effort, even when the effort is clumsy and weird and late. Marceline sees that. Hunson tries to show that. And somewhere between those two imperfect people, something like healing begins to take shape. Not finished, not polished, but begun. And maybe that's the best any of us can hope for sometimes. So as we drift here together tonight, maybe think about that. The people in your life who are trying. The people you wish would try. The ways you've tried too. The ways we all show up awkwardly, hoping to be understood, hoping to connect, even when we don't always know how to ask for it. That's the story of Hunson and Marceline. Not villains and heroes. Just a dad and his daughter trying to find each other again after too many years of speaking different languages. And you're here with them, drifting gently through the spaces between hurt and hope, wrapped in blankets, held by the quiet hum of the night, resting with stories like old friends you can't help but visit one more time. We'll keep going soon. More stories, more tangled threads, more gentle drifting. For now, you're doing wonderfully. I'm so glad you're here. Let's keep going together in the next part. Let's keep floating together nice and slow. Soft lights, steady breaths, blankets cozy. You know the drill by now. This next part of our story gets a little stranger, a little weirder, but in that good way. Like dreams that don't quite make sense, but somehow feel important anyway. So now, let's talk about power. Not just regular, run-of-the-mill cartoon power like lasers or flying or whatever. No, I mean real power in the world of Adventure Time. The kind that changes people. The kind that costs something. And with Hunson Abadeer, power is always tangled up with something darker. It's not just what he can do, it's what it takes from him. And what it threatens to take from anyone who gets too close. Let's start with the obvious one. The Amulet of the Nightosphere. Yeah, that thing. Big, glowing, ominous. If you've ever wondered why Hunson was called the Lord of Evil, well, that amulet is basically his crown, his badge, his curse. See, the amulet doesn't just give him powers, it defines him. It's the thing that lets him command the Nightosphere. It's the thing that warps his form into that big, terrifying, floating vampire demon thing. But here's the important part. The power of the amulet doesn't stop with Hunson. It wants more. It pulls at the wearer, whispering dark things, pushing them toward cruelty, toward greed, toward domination. It's not just a tool, it's alive in its own sinister way. And Hunson? Well, he's been wearing it for centuries. You can imagine what that does to someone's sense of self. Imagine holding something that constantly tells you you deserve more, take more, hurt more. That's not just a magical artifact. That's a prison you choose to stay in. And it's not just Hunson's problem either. Remember when Finn puts on the amulet? Ooh, that moment is rough. Finn, pure-hearted, brave, always fighting for good. And yet the second that amulet wraps around his neck, we see what it really does. It twists. It corrupts. Finn's cheerful face melts into a snarling monster. His words turn cruel, his very shape bending like someone caught in a bad dream. And that tells us something important, doesn't it? The amulet doesn't make bad people worse. It makes everyone worse. It doesn't matter how noble you are. If you wear that thing long enough, it changes you. Which brings us right back to Hunson. It makes you wonder, was he always this way? Or did the amulet twist him over centuries into the power-hungry being we see? Is Hunson truly evil? Or is he just a man who's worn the wrong crown for too long? It's hard to say for sure. But the tragedy here, the real sadness beneath the floating monster act, is that somewhere way back, Hunson might have been someone entirely different, someone funny, someone gentle, someone who could have been a real father to Marceline, if not for the slow, creeping influence of that cursed artifact hanging around his neck. Power in the land of Oo always has a price. It's a theme we see again and again. Ice King's crown stealing his memories. The Lich's unstoppable hunger for destruction. And here, Hunson's amulet eating away at his soul one whisper at a time. And what makes it all sting a little more is that Marceline knows it. That's part of why her anger toward her dad is so complicated. She knows he's done awful things. But she also knows he's been changed by something bigger than himself. She hates him for what he's done, but deep down, she also pities him. And pity? That's worse than hatred sometimes, isn't it? Now, here's a little detail that gets missed sometimes. Hunson doesn't need the amulet to exist. He doesn't even need it to be a dad. But he chooses it anyway. Because somewhere along the way, he forgot how to be anyone else without it. That's what curses are like, right? They don't always lock you in chains. Sometimes, they convince you that the chains are part of your own body, that you're supposed to carry them. Hunson's tragedy isn't just that he's bad. It's that he's trapped himself in being bad. Like a song he keeps singing, even though he doesn't remember the words anymore. And that's where Marceline's frustration really comes from. She's not just mad at him for what he's done. She's mad because she knows he could be more. If he could just let go of the thing that's been holding him down for centuries. Let's sit with that thought gently for a moment, like a ripple moving across still water. Soft, steady, spreading outward. This story, like so many others in Adventure Time, isn't just about magic or monsters. It's about choice, about the quiet ways we trap ourselves, about the courage it takes not to fight demons out there, but the ones we carry inside. And as we drift further into this story, we'll explore more about Hunson's powers, the curses he's passed down, and the strange, terrifying, and sometimes funny ways they've shaped his legacy. Now, let's keep going, slow and steady, just like we're floating down a calm river under stars we can't quite name. Now, I want to dive a little deeper into this strange thing called cursed power. Because with Hunson, it's not just about that glowing amulet. It's about what the Nightosphere itself represents. The Nightosphere, his domain, his kingdom, his home, isn't just a scary underworld. It's a reflection of him. Or maybe he's a reflection of it. It's a chicken and egg situation, really. Did the Nightosphere twist Hunson into who he became? Or did Hunson become the kind of being who fit perfectly into the Nightosphere's twisted, chaotic, and hilarious nonsense? I like to think of the Nightosphere as less of a kingdom and more of a mirror. It gives back to its ruler exactly what they bring into it, multiplied by 1,000, turned sideways, and painted with bright, wild colors. Hunson brings control, greed, that overbearing I'm the boss energy. And what does the Nightosphere give him in return? Endless demons crawling over each other, backstabbing, scheming, chaotic messes everywhere, and Hunson floating over it all thinking he's won. It's funny, right? This guy with all the power in the world. And it's like he's ruling over a room full of toddlers on a sugar rush. Absolute madness. But that's the thing about cursed power. It doesn't give you peace. It doesn't make you happy. It gives you exactly what you think you want, and then makes sure you can never really enjoy it. Hunson thinks he's in control of the Nightosphere. But in reality, he's trapped by it. Forever performing. Forever maintaining order in a place that was never meant to have order. Like being a manager of a carnival ride that never stops spinning. And then we get to the really interesting part. What happens when that curse gets passed down? Let's not forget, Hunson's powers aren't just his own anymore. They extend not directly to Marceline, but through that strange, uncomfortable thread of inheritance. She's his daughter, and no matter how much she rejects his kingdom, no matter how far she runs into the wild places of Ooh, she's still tied to that legacy. Not by choice, by blood. Think of it like this. You can move across the world from your family. You can cut ties, change your name, start over completely. But somewhere, deep down, there's always that small, uncomfortable echo where you came from. That's what Marceline carries. And that's why her relationship with her dad is so tangled, so painful, and so real. Hunson's powers, his curses, his terrible Nightosphere kingdom, they don't just live out there. They live in her, too. Not as actual magical powers, but as emotional weight. As memories she doesn't want, but can't quite erase. It's like carrying around a bag of someone else's mistakes, even though you didn't pack it yourself. And it shows up in those tiny moments we've seen on the show. Marceline's hesitation. Her frustration. That tired look in her eyes when Hunson shows up and pretends everything's fine. Because to him it might be. But to her, it's another reminder of that heavy bag she didn't ask for. Now let's swing back to that cursed amulet for a second. It's tempting to think, why doesn't Hunson just take it off? Good question. We've seen him without it, remember? For brief moments, when he's not floating around in full evil dad mode, he's just a guy. A weird guy, sure. But not exactly pure evil. So why keep wearing it? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes we hold on to the things that hurt us because we don't know who we are without them. Hunson has been the Lord of Evil for so long that he doesn't really know how to be just Hunson anymore. It's like actors who've played the same role for decades. They forget where the character ends and the real person begins. And even more than that, maybe Hunson's afraid of what happens if he lets go. What if he's not special without the amulet? What if he's not powerful? What if he's nobody? It's heartbreaking in a weird, villainous way. Not because we feel sorry for him exactly, but because we recognize that same fear in ourselves sometimes, don't we? The fear of change. The fear of giving up something harmful because what if the unknown is worse? That's Hunson's curse, really. Not the amulet, not the Nightosphere. But that fear. That tiny whisper that says, this is all you'll ever be. Don't let go. You might disappear. And that's why, even though Hunson can be hilarious and terrible and frustrating all at the same time, his story matters. Because it reminds us of our own small battles with identity, with inherited pain, with the strange things we convince ourselves we need, even when we don't. So here we are, drifting in this strange, glowing world of cursed crowns, floating kingdoms, and one very complicated dad. And next, we'll get into how that curse might not stop with him. Because there's something strange about how curses spread, isn't there? They don't just sit in one place. They echo. They ripple outward. Sometimes they even find new shapes in unexpected people. But for now, just breathe. You're doing so well. And I'm glad you're here with me for this. Now, let's explore the part that really twists the knife, and not just how Hunson's power has shaped him, but how it's affected the people around him. Because cursed power doesn't just stay on the shoulders of the person who wields it. It spreads, like ink in water, like a bad dream you can't quite shake. It ripples outward, touching everyone nearby, changing them too. Marceline is the clearest example, of course, not just because she's his daughter, but because her whole life has been shaped by Hunson's choices, his hunger for power, his need for control, even his casual cruelty, like that awful moment when he tries to eat her fries as a kid. It's silly, right? A dad stealing fries. On paper, that's just funny. But Adventure Time has this way of turning funny into sad, and sad into meaningful, all with just a tiny shift of tone. That fry scene matters because it's not about the fries. It's about respect. It's about care. It's about the tiny, everyday choices that show a child, I see you. You matter. And Hunson failed that test. Over and over again. Because when someone's trapped by cursed power, they don't notice the small things anymore. They're always thinking bigger. Conquest, authority, being in charge. They forget that the most powerful thing in the world is kindness. Hunson, floating around in his weird vampire demon form, could rip apart armies with a thought, but couldn't sit with his daughter for 10 minutes and listen to her. Now that's real tragedy. And it gets worse, doesn't it? Because the amulet didn't stop at just hurting Hunson or Marceline. It nearly dragged Finn down with it. Remember that scene? Finn putting on the amulet, getting twisted into the snarling, demonic version of himself? It's a scary moment. But not because of what Finn does, but because of what it shows us. Goodness can be bent. Kindness can be broken. And even the most heroic people can be dragged into something darker, if the influence is strong enough. That's what makes cursed power so terrifying. It's not a big, flashy villain with explosions. It's a whisper. It's something that gets in your head and makes you believe. Maybe this is the only way. And yet, this is adventure time, right? A world that never lets despair have the last word. There's always a weird joke, a funny little dance, or a tender hug just when things are at their darkest. And that's where Marceline comes back into the story. Because Marceline didn't just suffer from her father's curse. She fought it. Not with swords and not with spells, but with songs. Do you remember those songs? Soft, aching, honest. Full of that quiet kind of sadness you only hear when someone's telling you the truth they usually hide. That's how she broke the cycle. Not by punching Hunson, or stealing the amulet, or storming the Nightosphere. But by writing music that said, I'm still here. You hurt me. But I'm still here. There's something powerful in that, isn't there? Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is to stay. Stay with your pain. Stay with your memories. Stay with the hope that things might change, even if they haven't yet. And that's why Hunson's story isn't just the story of a villain. It's the story of someone who could have been better, but didn't know how. It's the story of someone who forgot how to put the amulet down. But through Marceline, we see that curses don't have to be permanent. They can be outlasted. They can be sung away, one trembling, beautiful note at a time. And that brings us to the weird little paradox about cursed power. It's incredibly strong, but also incredibly fragile. It can twist people, change them, trap them. But it can also be undone by the simplest things. A memory, a laugh, a stupid song about fries and broken hearts. That's the beauty of this strange, colorful, heartbreaking, hilarious universe we're drifting through. Nothing is completely good. Nothing is completely bad. And even the Lord of Evil himself is just one dad, making the worst choices, for reasons he doesn't fully understand. It's messy. It's sad. It's kind of funny sometimes. And it's real. But that's not the end. There's still more to Hunson's power, stranger pieces, hidden details, little crumbs of lore hiding in dusty corners of the land of Ooh. We'll get there next. But for now, just breathe. Let your thoughts settle like leaves drifting to the ground. We're in no rush here. I'm glad you're still here with me. Now that we've floated through Hunson's cursed inheritance and the ripple effect it's had on Marceline, I want to talk about one last thing in this part of the story. Not the power he wields, but the power others give to him. See, here's the strange part about cursed objects, about cursed people even. Sometimes it's not the magic itself that makes them powerful. It's the belief other people place in that magic. Hunson wears that amulet like armor. But what really gives him his strength is fear. Everyone expects him to be terrifying. Everyone's waiting for him to be cruel. And when people expect you to play a role long enough, you start performing it automatically. Think about it like this. If everyone in your life called you the smart one, you might start always acting like you got the answers, even if you don't. Or if people always called you the funny one, you might start making jokes, even when you don't feel like laughing. We all wear masks sometimes. Sometimes they help us. Sometimes they trap us. Hunson's mask is the Lord of Evil. And maybe he doesn't even know how to take it off anymore. But what happens when someone refuses to believe in that mask? That's where Marceline steps in again. Because even when she hates what her father has done, even when she's furious at him, even when she tells him to stay away, she doesn't just see the mask. She remembers him singing silly songs to her when she was a kid. She remembers him trying, awkwardly, to connect with her later. She remembers the person, not just the costume. And that's dangerous for the curse. Because a curse needs belief to grow. It needs people to feed it. Without that, it starts to lose its grip. That's why when Finn fights the power of the amulet, it's not about strength, it's about will, about choosing not to let the curse define him. That's what makes these stories in Adventure Time feel so much more alive than just good guys versus bad guys. It's not just about punching monsters. It's about resisting the roles people try to shove you into. It's about asking yourself the hardest question of all. Who am I really? And Hunson? Deep down, he doesn't know how to answer that question. Not without the Nightosphere. Not without the amulet. Not without the heavy crown of Lord of Evil weighing on his shoulders. But Marceline, she does know. And even though she carries her own shadows, even though she's made mistakes, even though she gets sad and angry and lost sometimes, she's herself, a musician, a survivor, a queen in her own right, with a crown of songs and memories instead of cursed metal. So what's the lesson hidden here, under all the glowing demon smoke and amulet magic? Maybe it's this. Power isn't just about what you can take. It's about what you choose to carry. And sometimes, the bravest thing in the world is choosing to put something down. Hunson couldn't do it. But Marceline could. And that's why, even though their story is painful and unfinished and complicated, it's also beautiful. Because breaking a curse doesn't always look like a dramatic showdown. Sometimes, it looks like someone quietly writing a song in their room, letting the music do the work that words couldn't. And maybe that's why we love this show so much. Because underneath the Candy Kingdoms, the Vampire Queens, and the weird demon dads, there's this soft heartbeat of realness. People trying to be better, even when it's hard, even when it hurts, even when they don't have all the answers yet. And you drifting off here with me now. Maybe you felt that too in your own life. That pull between what you carry and what you can let go of. That strange, heavy choice we all face in quiet moment. But you don't have to figure it all out tonight. Right now, all you need to do is breathe. Let this story drift like smoke, curling into strange shapes that don't need to be understood yet. They can just be. And with that, we'll gently close this chapter of Hunson's cursed powers. But don't worry, we're not done yet. There's still more to uncover in the strange, wild, heartbreaking world of Hunson Abadeer and the Nightosphere. Next, we'll be stepping into something even deeper. The battles, the betrayals, the strange alliances. And what happens when power isn't enough. But for now, just rest here with me. You're doing great. We've traveled pretty far together tonight, haven't we? Through curses, songs, heartbreaks, and demon dimension. And yet, somehow, it feels like we've only just begun. Adventure Time always has this way of hiding more just beneath the surface. Like peeling layers of an old, forgotten painting, what you thought was the whole picture turns out to be just the first layer of something deeper. So now, let's drift into those shadowy spaces between the episodes. Theories, secrets, lore that the show whispers instead of shouts. Let's start with the biggest, most whispered one of all. Is Hunson really the ultimate evil? Or is there something else he's afraid of? See, for someone who calls himself the Lord of Evil, Hunson doesn't actually act like the biggest threat in the show. He's powerful, yes. Intimidating, absolutely. But the true cosmic terror in Adventure Time, that title belongs to Golb. Hunson rules the Nightosphere. But Golb is something else entirely raw chaos, destruction incarnate, a force that unravels existence itself. Here's the curious part. The show never tells us if Hunson and Golb have a direct connection. But what if Hunson's obsession with power, his need to control, isn't just typical villain behavior? What if it's fear? What if Hunson's whole evil overlord routine is just a desperate attempt to carve out his own kingdom, build a fortress of shadows, and keep the real horrors at bay? It's like a child acting tough to hide that they're terrified underneath. Except in Hunson's case, the child is a 1,000-year-old demon king. Kind of wild, right? It changes how we view him. Suddenly, Hunson's cruelty isn't just cruelty, it's armor. Not an excuse, of course, but an explanation. Now, let's go deeper. What about the origin of the Nightosphere itself? The show gives us these strange glimpses of it. Twisting skies, impossible landscapes, floating chunks of land tethered by chains of raw energy. But who made it? Is it part of Oo? Or is it older, stranger, a leftover piece of the universe that never quite fit anywhere else? One fan theory suggests that the Nightosphere might not be a natural place at all. What if it's a prison? Think about it. The endless torment. The grotesque inhabitants. The feeling that nothing there quite makes sense by normal rules. It's not just a dimension of evil, it's like a cosmic landfill, a dumping ground for broken things, failed realities, exiled creatures. And Hunson? Maybe he wasn't always meant to be its king. Maybe he just found it first. Or worse, maybe he was put there. Exile, forgotten, given a crown of shadows by forces older and more terrifying than him. It makes sense, doesn't it? Hunson's whole vibe is like someone playing dress-up with danger. Powerful, yes, but trapped by it, shaped by it, wearing it like an uncomfortable suit 2 sizes too big. And that brings us to Marceline. Because if the Nightosphere is a prison, then her whole story with her dad becomes even sadder. It's not just a story of a daughter dealing with a bad parent. It's a story of someone inheriting a curse they never asked for. It's the quiet tragedy of children paying the price for the mistakes of the ones who came before them. Let's zoom in closer. Remember Marceline's bass guitar? The one made from a battle axe? It's one of the coolest props in the whole show. But did you ever stop to think about why she made it? There's a fan theory, one I love, and B, that suggests that bass isn't just a cool musical choice. It's symbolic. Axes are made for violence. Bass guitars are made for music, by turning a weapon into an instrument. Marceline is literally rewriting her inheritance. She's taking the violence of her father's world and turning it into art, pain becoming melody, war becoming song. That's the beauty of Adventure Time, isn't it? It never spells this stuff out. It just lets you feel it, piece by piece, like wandering through a strange, beautiful museum where the signs are all smudged, but the art speaks anyway. And speaking of strange museums, let's not forget about those mysterious Nightosphere monsters. Some of them seem like typical demons, but others, they feel wrong, twisted in ways that don't fit with Hunson's vibe. What if some of those creatures weren't born there at all? What if they were trapped there too? Exiles, wanderers, victims of bigger unseen cosmic wars. That would mean Hunson isn't just a tyrant. He's a warden. Or worse, he's another prisoner pretending to be the guard. Kinda eerie, isn't it? Now, none of this is confirmed by the show. It's lore, in the soft sense. The kind of lore that doesn't get shouted, but whispered, half remembered, half believed. That's part of what makes Adventure Time so good at bedtime stories, don't you think? It doesn't need to explain everything. It just lets your mind wander into strange corners and build its own castles out of shadows and forgotten lines of dialogue. And as we drift here together, half in this world, half in sleep, I hope you feel that too, the cozy thrill of mystery. And trust me, we've barely scratched the surface of Hunson's hidden lore. There's more. So much more. Let's keep moving through these strange theories together like we're wandering down old hallways with creaky floorboards, not quite sure where they lead, but curious enough to keep going anyway. Now, here's a theory that really gets my imagination going. What if Hunson Abadeer isn't just some random evil guy who stumbled into a cursed amulet? What if he was chosen? Think about it. The amulet gives him incredible powers, yes? But where did that amulet come from in the first place? Did he forge it himself? Did he discover it buried in the Nightosphere? Or was it given to him by something or someone with bigger plans? Some fans believe the amulet may have been a gift, or maybe even a trap from cosmic beings we never fully meet in Adventure Time. Gob, as we've mentioned before, is one of those terrifying entities lurking in the show's cosmic background. But there's a sense that Gob isn't the only one out there. There are other ancient powers, hidden forces older than even the Mushroom War or the land of Oo itself. What if those forces created the amulet to bind Hunson, not just empower him? Like giving someone a throne made of chains looks impressive, but secretly keeps you stuck in place. And maybe that's why Hunson never really tries to leave the Nightosphere for long. Maybe deep down, he can't. It puts a whole new twist on his story, doesn't it? He's not just a villain causing trouble for fun. He's trapped in a role he didn't choose, stuck wearing a title that gets heavier the longer he wears it. Even more interesting, Marceline, being his daughter, might also be part of that same plan. Remember the powers she inherited from her dad? The immortality and the shape-shifting? What if those weren't just random traits, but carefully passed down pieces of this cosmic curse? It's like she's a key to something, or a balance. Where Hunson represents consumption and greed, a literal soul eater, Marceline, represents creation. Music, emotion, memory. It's almost like she's the counterweight, the missing piece in a cosmic equation that the universe hasn't solved yet. No wonder their relationship is so complicated. They're not just father and daughter, they're opposites, forced to exist in the same story. And here's where it gets really strange. Some fans think that Hunson wasn't always a demon. That maybe long ago he was a mortal, a regular person who stumbled into something he couldn't control. A man who reached for power, found the amulet, and was transformed by it. It would explain his weird, awkward parenting skills, right? He's not a natural-born overlord. He's like someone pretending to be a supervillain because he doesn't know how else to act anymore. He clings to power because everything else, kindness, connection, softness, feels terrifying to him now. And that's tragic in its own way. The Nightosphere itself might be shaped by his mind, his fears, his regrets, a whole dimension built out of emotional junk he can't let go of. Like a room full of boxes you never unpacked because you don't want to face what's inside. Adventure Time never tells us that, but doesn't it feel true when you think about it? It makes every little moment with Marceline hurt more. Like when she tries to connect with him through music, or when she stands up to him not because she hates him, but because she's hoping there's still a piece of him that remembers what it's like to love someone. That's the heart of the secret, I think. Hunson's story isn't just about evil. It's about loneliness. The kind of loneliness that grows over centuries. The kind that makes people build castles out of pain because they've forgotten how to build anything else. And honestly, haven't we all felt a little bit of that sometimes? Not the demon overlord part, of course, but that feeling of pushing people away, of putting up walls because it's easier than letting yourself be seen. Adventure Time doesn't need to spell that out. It just shows it quietly underneath all the weird jokes and candy people. It's why the show lingers in your heart long after the credits roll. And now before we drift too far, let's touch on one more delicious little secret. Did you know that Hunson Abadeer's name might be a clue too? Abadeer sounds a lot like Abaddon, an ancient word used in religious texts to describe a place of destruction or a being of chaos. And Hunson. Well, that might be a twist on Son of Hun, a kind of playful nod to barbarian warlords or destructive conquerors in ancient history. Even his name feels like a secret code, one that hints at his role as both destroyer and prisoner of his own destructive legacy. Pretty cool, right? And yet, we still have more ground to cover. So, sleepy ones, keep breathing slow. Let's sit here a little longer in this gentle place between theory and truth, between stories and dreams. Next up, even stranger secrets, theories that go beyond the characters we've met, into the spaces between worlds. But for now, just relax, knowing you've already uncovered more than most ever will. Still here with me, huh? I knew you were curious like that. And honestly, that's my favorite part about hanging out with all of you here. This shared curiosity, this love of untangling strange stories, like we're holding a delicate thread in the dark, following wherever it leads. So let's finish this little dive into theories and secrets with some of the weirdest, most whispered ideas out there about Hunson, the Nightosphere, and the hidden corners of Adventure Time. Here's one of my favorites, A theory that's a little wild, a little dreamy, but fits just right if you tilt your head the right way. What if the Nightosphere is not just a dimension of evil, but a mirror of Uu itself? Think about it. Where Uu is strange and colorful, the Nightosphere is twisted and dark. Where Uu is full of life and growth, the Nightosphere is decay and consumption. What if they're two halves of the same whole? Not good versus evil exactly, but creation versus entropy, birth versus death, music versus noise. If that's true, then Hunson isn't just some random villain. He's the shadow of Uu itself. Every vibrant song in Uu has an echo of distortion in the Nightosphere. Every joyful celebration in Candy Kingdom sends ripples of dread through those boiling skies Hunson calls home. It makes Hunson's position tragic all over again. Imagine living as the shadow of something beautiful, always present, always necessary, but never allowed to join the dance. It makes his relationship with Marceline hit even harder. She's a being of both worlds, music and silence, life and undeath, softness and sharp teeth. No wonder she's the bridge between dimensions. And no wonder she clashes with her dad. She's not supposed to fit neatly into either side. Another theory takes it one step further. What if the real reason Hunson tried to suck out Marceline's soul when they met wasn't just him being evil, but fear? What if he knew that someone like her, a hybrid of realms, posed a threat to the fragile balance he'd been forced to maintain? Maybe Hunson didn't want to destroy his daughter because he hated her, but because he was terrified that she could undo everything. Undo the walls between worlds. Undo the neat separation between good and bad, light and dark, order and chaos. It's wild, right? But Adventure Time is full of wild, whispered things like that. And then there's the music. Always the music. What if Marceline's music is the force that holds the balance? Not just between herself and her dad, but between Uu and the Nightosphere. Each time she sings, she's not just telling her story, she's rewriting the story of both realms. Every note pulling threads tighter, stitching together pieces that were never meant to meet. A lullaby powerful enough to bridge dimensions. It's beautiful, isn't it? Soft rebellion through song, gentle resistance through melody. Even Hunson, as selfish, cruel, and awkward as he can be, even he recognizes it by the end. Remember when he starts bobbing along to her tunes? That's not just funny. That's acceptance, whether he knows it or not. And then, the ultimate secret. One that's not confirmed by any canon, but whispered by fans who love stories that go deeper. What if Hunson is afraid of himself? Maybe that's why he leans into the whole Lord of Evil persona. Because if you convince the world you're the monster, maybe you won't have to face the real monster. The part of you that wants love, that misses being human, that's lonely and weak. It's easier to be feared than to admit that you're just broken. And isn't that kind of universal? Aren't we all, in some way, afraid of the parts of ourselves we don't fully understand? Hunson's story isn't really about world domination. It's about hiding. It's about what happens when you run from your own heart for so long that you forget what it even sounded like in the first place. But Marceline remembers, and that's why Adventure Time is so special. It tells wild stories with demons and candy kingdoms and cosmic horrors. But at its heart, it's about people, about family, about forgiveness, even when that forgiveness feels impossible. So here we are, sleepyheads, sitting in that soft, secret place between theories and dreams, between bedtime and the edge of consciousness. There's still more to tell, more hidden truths, more strange corners of the Adventure Time universe. But for now, let's let this one settle, like the last chord of a song ringing gently into silence. Thanks for wandering into these hidden places with me. Now, let's drift further together. All right, sleepyheads. We've wandered through the strange, the secret, and the heartbreaking parts of Hunson Abadeer's story. But now, we're stepping into the quiet after the storm. The soft space where we stop asking what happened, and start asking, what does it all mean? Because here's the thing about legacies. They're never just about what you did. They're about what you left behind. Not just for yourself, but for the people who come after you. And when it comes to Hunson Abadeer, that question gets messy. So let's drift into it gently, shall we? What does Hunson Abadeer really leave behind? Not just a spooky throne and a boiling sky. Not just a scary title or a reputation for eating souls. No, his real legacy is complicated. On the surface, Hunson's legacy looks like a monument to selfishness, doesn't it? He built an entire dimension of chaos and torment, not because he had to, but because he could. Power for power's sake. Consumption because why not? But underneath all that, it's lonelier than it is terrifying. He's a king of nothing, a ruler of echoes, and the only person who really matters to him, Marceline, wants nothing to do with that empire of misery. It makes you wonder, what kind of legacy is that? What good is a kingdom if no one loves you inside it? What good is power if the one thing you care about, your own daughter, can't even look at you without seeing everything you ruined? Hunson doesn't just leave behind fear. He leaves behind brokenness. Not just in others, but in himself. But here's the beautiful thing about Adventure Time. It never lets the story stop at hopelessness. Because Hunson's real legacy isn't what he tried to build. It's Marceline. Think about that for a second. Marceline could have followed in his footsteps, right? She's got the power, the immortality. She's got the vampire strength, the shape-shifting, the sharp teeth. She could have been the queen of the Nightosphere if she wanted to. She could have taken over that scary throne, expanded the empire of misery, kept the soul-sucking dynasty alive. But she didn't. Instead, she picked up a bass guitar. Instead, she wrote songs. Instead, she turned trauma into art, pain into melody, loneliness into poetry. That's the real rebellion, isn't it? Forget thrones. Forget crowns. Marceline rewrote the entire meaning of legacy. Hunson's world was built on taking. Marceline's world is built on giving. Hunson devoured souls. Marceline gives people something they can feel, a song to cry to, a memory to hold, a tune to fall asleep with, just like we're doing here together right now. It's not just powerful, it's healing. And maybe that's why Hunson sticks around in the story. Not because he's the big bad anymore, but because he's learning. Awkwardly, slowly, messily. But learning all the same. You can see it in those later episodes, can't you? That slightly confused, slightly embarrassed way he starts. Trying to connect. Trying to understand why songs matter more to his daughter than war or power or thrones. It's clumsy. It's imperfect. But it's real. It's like watching someone pick up an old, dusty instrument with shaking hands, not knowing how to play yet, no, but wanting to learn. And that's legacy too. Not what you leave, but what you try to become before the story's over. Hunson's legacy isn't finished yet. It's still being written. Every awkward smile, every failed attempt to connect, every time he doesn't devour someone's soul for fun, that's him trying to step out of the shadow he spent centuries hiding in. And you know what? That's kind of beautiful. It's messy. It's uncomfortable. It's late, way too late, but it's something. And honestly, maybe that's a lesson for all of us, too. That even if you've spent your life building the wrong kind of legacy, it's never too late to start building a new one. Hunson taught us that. Not by being good, but by showing that even bad guys can learn something new, even if it takes them a few hundred years to get there. And Marceline? She's the proof that we don't have to carry the mistakes of the people who came before us. We get to write our own story, sing our own songs, heal in our own way. Hunson gave her immortality. But Marceline gave herself freedom. And that's a legacy worth holding on to. You know, the more I think about Hunson's legacy, the more I wonder if that's what Adventure Time has been whispering to us all along. That legacies aren't solid things. They're soft, malleable, kind of like clay in your hands. They can change shape depending on who holds them, who inherits them, and what they decide to do with them. Hunson's version of legacy domination, fear, chaos, was like a cracked, ugly vase sitting on a high shelf as though he's collecting dust, barely held together. And Marceline? She didn't throw it out. She didn't shatter it completely. She just picked it up carefully and started molding it into something new. That's what's so powerful about generational stories, right? We don't always get to choose what we inherit. Sometimes what's left to us is broken, jagged, or sharp around the edges. But we do get to choose how we carry it. Marceline didn't erase where she came from. She didn't deny that Hunson was her dad. She didn't pretend the pain wasn't real. But she did make sure that pain didn't define her future. And I think that's what makes their story one of the most human in Adventure Time. Even though it's told with demons and vampires and magical dimensions. Because it's not just about monsters or magic. It's about family. And family can be messy. Family can disappoint you. Family can fail you. And yet, sometimes family can surprise you. Sometimes family can start to change, even if they don't fully understand how. Hunson is terrible at emotions. He's like someone trying to read a love poem using an instruction manual. It's awkward, it's uncomfortable, it's often hilarious. But the fact that he tries it all, that's what matters. Remember that scene in Marcy Hunson, where he shows up, clearly still not getting everything right, but wanting to be part of her world, even if he doesn't know how. That's not just a goofy plotline. That's growth. Painful, slow, uneven growth. But growth all the same. Hunson's legacy, as weird as it sounds, is kind of like a garden in winter. It doesn't look like much. It's rough, gray, maybe even ugly on the surface. But underneath the soil, something's stirring. Something's learning how to bloom. And Marceline? She's like spring, arriving slowly but surely, bringing color back to places that forgot what warmth felt like. It's poetic in a way. The Lord of Evil leaves behind a daughter who teaches the world how to heal through song. Not through conquest, not through war, but through melody, through memory, through love. Even when that love is complicated. Even when that love is sharp-edged and unfinished. And that's what makes it real. Hunson's legacy isn't the Nightosphere. It isn't the scary amulet or the throne of bones. It's the attempt to change. It's the possibility of growth. And maybe that's a lesson we all need sometimes, right? That it's okay to have a messy past. It's okay to have made mistakes. It's okay if the people around you don't fully know how to love you the right way yet. What matters is that we try. That we keep picking up the pieces, even if we don't know exactly how to fit them together yet. Because when you're building a legacy, you're not really building it for yourself. You're building it for the ones who come after you. For the ones who listen to your story, who hear the song underneath the noise, who see the broken throne and imagine a garden instead. Hunson didn't set out to create that, but he accidentally helped build it anyway. Just by loving Marceline in his own clumsy, backward way. Sometimes love looks like mistakes. Sometimes love looks like awkward apologies that don't quite land. Sometimes love looks like trying again and again, even after centuries of getting it wrong. And that, sleepyheads, is how even the Lord of Evil can leave behind a legacy worth remembering. Not because of who he was, but because of who Marceline chose to become. All right, sleepyheads. We're almost at the end now. Let's stay here just a little longer in this soft, thoughtful space together. As we drift toward the end of Hunson's story, I keep thinking about something small, but kind of important. It's this. Hunson Abadeer isn't some giant villain who gets a climactic, heroic ending. He doesn't go down in a blaze of glory. He doesn't get defeated in some epic battle of good versus evil. No, his ending is quieter, clumsier, more human, in a strange, demon kind of way. It's awkward conversations. It's missed birthdays. It's showing up late to the important parts of Marceline's life. But still showing up. It's not neat or clean. But sometimes, life isn't neat or clean. Sometimes forgiveness isn't some grand moment with fireworks. Sometimes forgiveness is one weird, reluctant hug at a concert, or one slightly uncomfortable smile between people who don't know what to say next, but are still standing side by side anyway. Hunson didn't get redeemed by becoming a hero. He didn't suddenly turn good, but he became better, even if just a little, even if just for one person. And honestly, that's enough. Sometimes the biggest victories aren't battles. They're relationships healed even a little bit. They're the quiet choices to stop repeating old mistakes. They're deciding to write a new song, even if you don't know all the chords yet. And speaking of songs, it always felt fitting that Marceline's life was wrapped up in music. That while Hunson tried to rule with fear, Marceline chose to live with feeling. She turned her pain into lullabies, her sorrow into anthems, her loneliness into connection. That's her true inheritance. Not the Nightosphere, not the Amulet, but the choice to take brokenness and make something from it. That's why their story stays with us. Not because it's perfect, but because it's real. Hunson is a reminder that even the worst parts of the past don't have to stay broken. That even evil can try to learn. That even terrible fathers can eventually start to care, even if they don't know how to show it right. And Marceline? She's proof that we can all choose something different. That no matter what legacy is handed to us, we are not trapped by it. We can rewrite it. We can sing over it. We can live beyond it. And that's the kind of bedtime story I love the most. Not the one where everything is magically fixed, but the one where the characters keep going, keep learning, keep trying to build something better, note by note, day by day. As we close this journey together tonight, I want you to remember something gentle. Whatever legacy you feel like you're carrying, from family, from the past, from the world around you. You don't have to be defined by it. You can shape it. You can soften it. You can turn it into your song, just like Marceline did. Just like Hunson, in his own awkward, strange way, tried to in the end. So let's carry that lesson with us as we drift off together. That broken things don't have to stay broken. That we are never too far gone to grow, to learn, to change, or to sing a new song when we're ready. And with that, I hope you feel safe. I hope you feel warm. And I hope you know that no matter how messy the past might be, the future is still yours to shape. Good night, sleepyheads. Rest easy. I'll see you again soon. For another soft, curious journey through the worlds we love, sleep well.